I think I'm a man and I think I've got a beard. Yes, but that's the word that comes to me when I try to think of names. I keep feeling wedding. The word florin comes to mind, but I know, like I've achieved what I needed to do and it's time. And I don't know why I would know that.
So your eyes are already closed, you're already there.
Vicky is my wonderful wife. I first met her when I was about probably 18, 19, when she was going out with someone else, and several years later we got together and got married. I knew that Vicky would be a good subject because we used her for the pilot and she easily surrendered to the hypnosis. Even before the pilot, I would have put money on her being good at it because she's very good at getting in the zone, relaxing, and I knew that she'd be able to do it.
1798.
What does your door look like?
I just feel the number.
You feel it. So if you feel the number, can you see the door handle? Can you open it up and go through? Are you wearing anything on them?
Feels like leather boots. They're not like riding boots, they're more like rat strap jerkin boots, but they're not rough quality.
What colour are they?
Kind of beigey brown, almost like deer skin.
Can you work your way up your body now, just taking in what you're wearing? You can take your time, just describe to me what you have on.
The trousers are kind of rough green cloth. They don't feel itchy, they feel quite soft, but it's definitely cloth. And they're green. And I feel like I'm wearing a jacket of some description. I don't know what the colour is, but it feels slightly padded and comfortable. Maybe velvet? I don't know. I can't feel colour. I just feel comfortable in the jacket. So it's not tight and I'm not restricted. It's a practical jacket. I think I'm a man and I think I've got a beard.
The first thing I noticed with Vicky's initial hypnosis session was that she was a man. And as I mentioned before, women don't seem to have problems remembering life as men, but we very seldom get any men that have remembered lives as being women. We haven't yet had any, but other hypnotists apparently do get men that remember being women in previous existences.
I can't feel anything on my head.
How old are you?
I'm still quite young, but I'm definitely grown up. So, I don't know, probably 20s, 30s. That doesn't seem to matter. I just feel like a grown adult, but not old. I don't feel like anything aches or creaks or injuries or anything I'd associate with getting older.
What's your name?
I think I'm called Joseph.
Vicky's an interesting subject. I've had 4 sessions with her. So I've met her a few times now, and she's quite analytical in the way that she talks and the way that she thinks. And I think this is reflected in her language, the way she describes what she's seeing. Because one of the things that comes across for me, I notice quite strongly, is that she says, I think that I am. I think that I am doing this. I think that I am this age. Which skeptics could sort of say, well, she's not really in a deep trance, she's using her mind, she's perhaps making it up, I'm thinking. I feel that this is her language anyway, and she would be looking at herself and questioning it because she knows that she's talking to me. Knowing Vicky, I know that she wouldn't make things up, so I don't think that she's that kind of a character to make something up just to please, the camera. And then she does go on to say, I feel, and she's observing quite detailed. So I feel that she is in a trance, but I think perhaps she is one of those subjects that is quite aware of who she still is in the chair, because she is talking very much like herself. Some personalities come out further in a regression, and they become more their personality from that lifetime, and they speak in a certain way, and they kind of really get into it, and that's quite, somnambulists, people who go really deep, kind of tend to do that. They sort of forget who they are in this life. But I think Vicky is probably in a relatively light trance because she's aware of that she's trying to explain something to me.
Joseph, do you have a surname, a family name?
The word Scunthorpe keeps coming to me, but it doesn't feel like people call me that. It feels like it's just important.
Scunthorpe. Isn't that a place?
Yes, but that's the word that comes to me when I try to think of names.
Okay. I'd like you to look down at your feet again for me, please. What are you standing on?
Rough, like paving slabs, really rough paving slabs. They're not cobbled because they're too big, but they're paving slabs.
Can you lift your gaze and just start looking around you? What's in front of you and around you? Can you describe where you are?
I feel like I'm in a town and there are people around me, but I feel like I'm standing apart from the people, almost as if I'm standing in a city. But I'm not in a group of people I'm with.
And you can allow your subconscious to just take what comes to you. It doesn't need to think about anything. It always knows what's right. Do you know what town you are in?
All I'm getting is Scunthorpe. And I think I'm there on some kind of business. It feels like I have a purpose for being there. I'm not there to see people, I'm there for a purpose. Maybe I'm a merchant, I'm not sure.
What can you hear or smell or see around you? Describe the sight.
I don't see anything, but I hear a lot of almost like market sounds, like there's people around doing business, and I'm comfortable there. I don't feel out of place. I feel like I'm used to being there, and everything's comfortable. I don't feel self-conscious or like I'm lost.
What do you know about yourself in this time?
I feel like I definitely have a purpose, a job. I think I'm a trader of some description, and I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm not hungry, I'm not struggling, I'm doing quite well. But that doesn't make me feel proud, that just feels like it should be that way. So I'm actually living a good life with a purpose.
Were you born here?
It all feels totally familiar, as if I've always been here. So I would guess that I am from that part of the world, that's my place. I don't feel like I travel a lot. I feel like I'm where I always have been.
Do you have family then, Joseph?
I don't feel like I have a wife or a family, but I feel like I have siblings and parents. So maybe I'm in my 20s and I haven't done that yet, or it's something that I'm building towards. I don't feel I'm in that part of life yet.
Have you got a name for your parents? What are your parents called?
I'm getting Beth for my mother, and she wears quite bulky, loose clothes. She's not very tall. And she's a good cook. She's very mumsy. She looks after us all. And my father, I think he does what I do, so I might even be part of the family business, because I sense that he and I do the same thing, and I work with him. So it could be a family business that I'm part of, and that's why I feel so comfortable and confident in what I'm doing, because I've been raised to it. I'm actually very comfortable in my life and in how it's going and in what I can achieve and what I'm contributing to the family. This is a good situation I'm in.
What's your father's name?
I'm getting Henry. But I don't think people call him that. I think that's his name.
What's the family name? Beth and Henry, what?
I'm getting two words and neither of them seems quite right, but I'm getting Winston and Wincanton. But they don't feel quite right, but it's something W.
What's this event that you've come to today? What are you?
I think there's a market. I think I've come to trade at a market, but I don't feel like I'm carrying goods with me, so perhaps I'm going to buy. Perhaps I'm buying to trade somewhere else. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm carrying stuff. I feel like I'm going somewhere with a purpose and with money in my pocket, maybe to actually buy things that we're going to trade. But I feel very purposeful.
What's the money in your pocket? Can you take some out and look at it?
I don't see things, I feel things. I feel, as I was talking about it, I felt like I had a pouch with coins in it, and they felt like I had a pouch with gold coins in it. So we're not poor, we're not trading in copper and silver, we're using gold, which is expensive. So I'm feeling like I have the wherewithal to get what I want. I'm going with a purpose to get things, and I will be successful. But I feel like I have a pouch of money.
What's the currency?
It just feels like gold coins. I don't see, just feels like gold coins. The word florin comes to mind, but I know that isn't necessarily what I've got in my pouch. That word just came to me, so I think that might be the kind of thing I deal in.
At one stage she said that she was using gold coins and she referred to them as florins. And when I looked that up on the internet, it didn't seem to be consistent. Florins was not the currency in the time that she was remembering.
Okay, so let those feelings and those images fade now. Go forward to a significant event now, and as the feelings and images start to reform, tell me where you find yourself now.
I'm not getting strong feelings, but I keep feeling wedding.
Whose wedding?
It's mine. I'm feeling like I'm having a wedding. But I can't see or feel who I'm marrying. So it isn't necessarily a connected wedding. It could have been arranged. I'm not sure. I know I'm doing a wedding, but the bride doesn't seem significant.
Where are you?
I'm feeling country house, but close to town. So it's not in town. I'm not in town, but I'm not in a farm or anything like that. So it's still, I still feel like I'm a merchant and I'm in more of a nice house rather than a farm.
What are you wearing for your wedding?
I'm getting images of dark red velvet. And I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling like that's fine wear. Much finer than the green trousers I was wearing at the market. It just feels more upmarket. Like I'm wearing my best clothes and they're special. Probably special for the day, I don't know.
Can you describe the shape and what they look like?
I'm getting images of puff sleeves and almost like a peplum jacket with a little frill round from the waist. And I'm wearing leggings, but I've got leather boots that are much finer than the ones I was wearing before. They're more fitted. They have almost like flared tops from the knee. I'm feeling very fancy wearing these clothes, like I'm really wearing my best clothes. And this is a big event.
How's the jacket done up?
Buttons, maybe. It feels like buttons.
Are you wearing anything on your head?
I'm getting a sense again of a velvet hat. Like quite soft hat, not formally shaped, but definitely the same material as the jacket, which seems significant to me, as if it's really fancy that I've got a hat the same material as the jacket. So I'm feeling like I'm in my finery.
What shape is the hat?
It's kind of like it has almost like one of the stock hats that you have for riding in shape, but it's made of soft velvet, so it has a part your head goes in, and then it has a brim round it, but it's not huge, the brim. It's more there for shape and show. It's not there to shelter you. It's not a beret. For some reason, I've just got an image of a king wearing much finer clothes than mine, but I'm copying that fashion.
we've been looking and discussing the clothes that she mentions that she's wearing, and we have sort of felt that not all of it ties into that era. Her dress sense, her clothes, when she starts talking about her clothes, is quite interesting because I can't really visualise what she's saying. She says that she's got puffed sleeves, and I was thinking, puffed sleeves, that period wasn't that puffy. It was, they kind of had quite fitted sleeves, but there is a period, sort of the Beau Brummel fashion, where they had this sort of big sort of gathered part of the sleeve here. So maybe that's what she's talking about. So they did have slightly puffed sleeves. It changed through the century. And she talks about a velvet cap, certainly when she's getting married, and a velvet cap is quite interesting. It's not something that's in a lot of the fashion slates. When you see it, you don't really see a lot of velvet, but I can't see that people wouldn't be wearing something like that in that period. Again, we've got this idea that everybody is wearing a certain fashion because that's what we see a photograph of, which is the high fashion plates that we see from London. The provinces might be a few years behind the times and velvet might still be in. Would you wear a velvet cap to a wedding? I don't think so, not in that period, because you're talking maybe the tricorn era. But we did do a bit of research, we did look it up, and she might have just switched slightly into the early Victorian period, and I know that in the Victorian period they had velvet smoking caps. Vicky mentions her wedding outfit, which is quite interesting. She mentions that she's wearing leggings, which is quite a modern term, and as she's actually talking quite as Vicky, I think perhaps what she's discussing is these very tight breeches, these very tight leggings kind of style that men wore in that period, in the sort of the 1830s. They were very, very fitted trousers. Sometimes they were short with little flat shoes. Sometimes they would wear boots with them, and she's mentioning that she's got leather boots. It's quite an interesting one. What do you think? We'd like to hear from you. What do you think? Because are we trying to fit something into that period? I don't know. There's quite often things that come up in past life regression that we can't prove, and fashions aren't always on the internet. We don't have everything that was trendy, and in a period where fashions didn't change that quickly because we didn't have access to magazines and things of ease that quick, fashions moved much slower. So in provincial areas, maybe she would be wearing something that was slightly dated from another era, or 10 or 20 years earlier, because the fashion hadn't caught up. So there could be many reasons why she would be wearing a velvet cap.
Who else is here for the day for this wedding?
Family. I'm feeling a lot of family around me. I feel like I have lots of brothers and maybe some sisters, and they're all here gathered at the house for the event. I don't feel lots of strangers around. This is a family event.
What year is it?
I'm still getting 1798, but I don't know why. I don't necessarily feel that's where I am now. That's just the significant date I'm getting.
Okay.
It may sound odd, but it doesn't seem important to me what year it is or what month it is. I don't think with those measures. It's not something I pay attention to. That's not important in my life. What's important in my life is what I'm doing and who I'm with and where I am.
Where are you?
I'm definitely in my country house, and it's a family home, so it doesn't necessarily belong to me, but I feel like I'm where I belong. That's my home, and it's just outside the town, and it feels really comfortable. Like this is where I belong. This is my family. This is what I've worked for. This is where I should be.
What town is it?
I'm still getting Scunthorpe.
What country is that in?
In England. And for some reason, the word Merry England just came into my mind. I don't know why.
Her details were quite interesting. We had Scunthorpe, and I know that Nigel and Charlotte did some research.
Vicky's memory was apparently from 1798 or so, she said, and as I understand it, at that time, Scunthorpe didn't exist as a big town. I believe it was a relatively small village. It might have been a large village, but there were 4 villages that combined eventually to become a Scunthorpe town. And she describes being in a city, in a town. I'm assuming that those were memories of Scunthorpe town, and to me it doesn't seem consistent with what the history books say about what Scunthorpe would have been in those days. It implies that Scunthorpe in those days was a village, not a town.
And she's kind of talking as if it's a city. So is her conscious mind coming in because she knows that word Scunthorpe? Is she automatically assuming that she's talking about a city? So that could indicate a slightly light trance. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know the details of that yet.
At one stage, Vicky used an expression that I'd never heard before. She said that she was part of Merry England.
The words Merry England were used, which is actually quite a medieval phrase. Certainly I've heard it in context of the medieval period. But Nigel did some research, and it is actually a phrase that is used right up until the Industrial Revolution, and actually describes kind of a higher society, sort of the well-off, and that sort of feeling of, you know, everything's great and we've all got money and we're all having a great time and it's Merry England. So I'd certainly heard it in the medieval sense, but looking into the research, apparently it was used right up until the Industrial Revolution. So that is certainly a sentence that perhaps someone of her era would have used.
When I asked Vicky about the expression Merry England, then she did say that she was aware of the expression and she knew what it meant.
But it's definitely England, Scunthorpe. And it feels like it's up north, so I feel like I'm like London is down and I'm where I should be.
Okay.
I got the immediate sensation London is down there. And I don't know why I would know that. I haven't got any kind of feeling that I trade in London, but maybe I do. But it's definitely down there.
And you say that you trade, and you say that your family trades. What do you trade in? Can you tell me?
Immediately came into my mind rich cloths and like tapestry material and rich material for making clothes and drapes and yeah. It doesn't feel like we trade in food or anything like that. It feels like rich materials and bolts of cloth, and I can see images of almost like tapestry material in rolls, and the word bolts of cloth comes into my head. And I think that's expensive and that we're high-end traders, and that's why I need gold to buy the goods.
How old are you now?
I think I'm about 10 years older than I was in the market. I just feel about 10 years older.
And what would that make you?
In my head it's 30s, but I don't know why I would know that, because that's not important. Age is about maturity, it's not about numbers to me. I feel like I'm old enough now, but I don't know what old enough means. I just feel like I'm there and I'm doing what I should do in the place I am now. And I got a sense of achievement, as if I've reached a goal. And everyone around me is happy with me because I've reached a goal.
Let those images fade now. Go forward to that significant, important time now. And as those images and feelings start to reform, tell me where you find yourself.
I'm feeling quite old, and I'm feeling like I have family now, children of my own, who are doing what I did. So it's almost feeling like a circle of life, like I'm now getting old and now my sons are taking over. I'm feeling like I have a grey beard. I'm definitely feeling older, and definitely feeling like I'm coming to the end of what I was meant to do, which is to, yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm coming to the end of the cycle, and I've achieved what I needed to. I've raised my family and I'm okay.
How many sons do you have?
Feels like 3.
Can you tell me their names?
I'm getting the word John, but that's all.
Okay. Do you have any daughters?
Doesn't feel like I have daughters. It feels like I have 3 sons.
Where's your wife?
I think she's still with me, but somehow she doesn't feel significant. I never got the impression that it was anything other than a marriage of convenience, because my wedding felt about me, not about her. And I'm kind of aware of my sons and my business, but again, it's not about her. Although I'm getting an image of a blonde woman.
What's her name?
Rosemary?
Where are you living now?
We're still in the house. We're still in the house that I got married in, and I'm feeling like I was the eldest son. Therefore, I should be still in the house that I got married in. That feels right.
What year is it now?
$18 something, but I'm just getting 18 something.
Who's king?
That doesn't seem important to me. The impression I'm getting is them up there, as if I'm too lowly for that to have any importance in my life. I'm definitely not interested in politics. And I'm also not feeling like I would ever have any control in that aspect of life. Like it doesn't seem important to me.
Okay. I'm going to ask some questions now, and I want you to just accept whatever comes into your head. No need to question, just see what comes to you. It's all coming from the subconscious. So what's your name?
Joseph.
How old are you, Joseph?
I'm getting 58.
What's the name of the place you're in?
Still getting Scunthorpe.
Does your house have a name?
Not feeling anything.
What country are you in?
England.
What part of the country is it?
It felt like the best part, Scunthorpe.
And just to confirm, what year is it?
I'm getting 18, but I'm struggling with anything more than that.
Okay. I'm just going to move you forward in time now. Allow those images and feelings to fade. And as the images and feelings reform, tell me what you're doing, where you are.
I'm lying in a bed with white sheets. It feels like it's some kind of wooden tester type bed. And I think I'm at the end.
How does that make you feel?
Detached and peaceful. Like I've achieved what I needed to do and it's time.
What are your last thoughts in this life?
Peace and rest.
What year is it?
1820, 1821. I definitely feel frail, like I can't go on anymore. But that's okay. I feel I've done everything. It's over.
Are you on your own or are people around?
I think there are people around me, but they feel like carers and not family. I think maybe some of my sons are there.
How about your wife?
No.
Let those images and feelings fade now. And just sit and rest for a moment. And I want you to reflect on the experience you've just had, that life that you've just had as Joseph, and allow a few words of wisdom to spring into your mind, your lessons. What have you learned from being Joseph? Tell me what you think.
Peace and contentment can be boring.
Were you bored then?
Nothing happened.
Is that a bad thing?
There were no struggles. It was a good life, but it was vanilla. There was nothing. I felt like it was too easy.
At the end of the session, Angelina asked Vicky what she'd taken from that life. And Vicky's response was, I thought, really interesting. She said that it had been a good life, but it had been too easy. And then she said it was vanilla. And I take that to be an expression of an easy, everything worked out, there was no struggle kind of life. But I thought that was an interesting conclusion, that it was too easy. It's possible that before her life, in her life between lives, that Vicky planned on having a more difficult life and more struggles than she actually had. It's without actually knowing what her life plan is, it's impossible to say whether that's the reason why she thought that life was too easy. It's just possible it might well have been her modern self also commenting that it was a real cushy life. Who knows? My overriding impression of that session was that it was very believable, and I think there was a genuine memory there. When you see her under hypnosis, then she doesn't seem to be deep, but she's definitely got images that she's seeing. I think in a previous session she even kind of smelt things. She had a sense of smell, and it was a very believable session. But the skeptic in me always looked at everything that she said, and there were one or two things that she said during the hypnosis session that I didn't think were consistent with historical fact. I can't explain why there were the inconsistencies as to the coinage and the village of Scunthorpe, but I haven't delved into it in an awful lot of detail, and maybe I'm the one that's incorrect rather than Vicky's memories.
Eight, you can open your eyes. 9, 10, mind and body fully refreshed and return to normal, wide awake, every part of you back here with me in this room, all natural feelings. Return to every part of you, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Okay.
Well, what did we think of that one?
Yeah, interesting. How do you feel?
I feel okay. What's really interesting to me is that as I'm back in the room, while I was down, you were saying things to me like, look at this, look at that. There was no video image going on at all. It was all just relax and open and something will come to you. And so the numbers and the feelings and I can't explain it, but when you said to me things like what are you wearing on your feet, I didn't see anything. It was just like I knew as that person that that was what I'd put on and that's what I was wearing, but I wasn't looking at them, except that when I commanded myself to produce an image, I could see them as if they were on my feet, but it wasn't like I was looking around the room now, like I'm looking at a video of life.
You know what's so interesting about that though? That's how Ivan described how he thinks. And so you were a man, you were a practical man from the sounds of things.
I was actually struggling with being a man. I was thinking, no, I can't possibly have gone back to a man life, but everything that I was saying was accurate. And I was thinking, well, this actually must be a man life.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it to be a man life, and therefore it was kind of, no, that can't be right. But this is definitely what I'm getting. This is definitely what I'm feeling. So I'll just say what it is and see where it leads to. I was aware of that kind of sensation, that it was kind of, really? And then when I was standing in the marketplace going off to business, and even things like you said, where are you living? And I smiled to myself and said, Merry England. It was almost as if it was like a family joke. We're living in Merry England. It was like that was a saying that was used to being a family joke, for example. And it was just weird. It was odd. It was odd the way things came to me, like numbers and places. But I had a definite sense when you were asking me for dates and things like that and ages, that those things don't matter to me. I don't pay attention to stuff like that because that's for other people to worry about. It doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter who the king is. What's more important is how my business is going. It was a very sort of
quite pragmatic,
centric. Well, no, it was a very, my world is the most important thing and what goes on outside of my world is irrelevant sort of attitude. So who's the king? Who cares? My business is doing well. Do you know what I mean? It was very insular. It was very provincial. There was no sense that I was interested in the affairs of the world or travel or, you know, like going off and seeing things. The fact that I was dealing with these exotic silks, it didn't feel like I was interested in who'd made them out in Asia or something like that. I was interested in the profit I could turn on the bales of silk. I felt very provincial, very insular. Like all of those things didn't matter to me as a person. I wasn't looking outwards at the world. And that felt, like I said, it felt like a boring life in that I felt like I was going through life wading through treacle. I was doing success, I was doing business, I was living the life I was supposed to live, but it was almost a sense of, oh, is that it then? Because I didn't have curiosity about the outside world. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost as if my lesson from that life was that actually you can't just sit there having a nice comfy life being insular. You've got to put yourself out there and start experiencing other things. Just because you're comfortable doesn't mean you should stay in your little basket and be safe and happy. You've got to start expanding your world a bit more, experiencing different things. And you didn't do that in that life.
What does that tell you? Get out of your basque.
Can I just ask something? Because what's a tester bed? You said a tester bed. What's a tester bed?
Instead of being a 4-poster bed, it's got the bed head bit and a canopy over the top.
Okay.
It could have been that, but I visually, I don't know why those words came into my mind, because visually I was seeing a 4-poster bed, but it was almost as if, I don't know.
Okay.
I saw myself with white sheets, and I saw myself quite like, you know how when you get old you get kind of frail and so I didn't feel like I was diseased. I just felt like I was worn out and I was very old and frail. But
you said bolts of cloth, which is actually quite correct.
I could visually see like almost like rolled up carpets, but I knew that they were rich, beautiful materials that people were going to turn into. I got the sense they were going to be turned into clothing, not tapestries, and they looked rich enough to be tapestries, but to me the purpose was going to be really expensive clothing for the gentry. It wasn't going to be hanging curtains or anything like that. These were the best quality things, and I felt a sense of pride that I was dealing in high quality merchandise, which was quite interesting, and almost that kind of bought into the I'm a smug life kind of scenario.
Confused about the clothing. I'd like to do a bit of research on that, because that doesn't sound like it's of that period. Which is interesting.
I had clear images of the clothing though.
Yeah, we'll have to have a little discussion about that, because I'd like to do some research on that. I always go straight to the clothing, that's my thing.
Wow.
What are you thinking, Nigel?
We finished quite early, haven't we?
Have we? Oh, I didn't know we had.
20 past 10.
Oh, I thought we'd done really well. I thought we'd really, because she progressed. Yeah, well, and she also progressed. You progressed through that life quite easily. So I mean,
it felt to me like a life that was.
I would have taken her to another one. I didn't realise. I thought we'd been doing it for ages.
Too late to do another one?
No.
40 minutes. Are you up for it again?
I don't know how much I can get for you. I always feel that my stuff isn't really that good because I can't look at things and see things, and I'm not good on dates. I just have to hope that something's going to come to me.
You're quite instinctive about feelings. The only thing that I would say, and it's not to say that you're not having a past life experience, is that you're very eloquent and you're quite chatty.
Yeah, very descriptive.
And normally when someone's in really deep hypnosis, it takes a long time for them to answer because they're dragging.
I always feel like I'm hurrying it. When you say, oh, you're now doing this and you're doing that, I always feel like, oh, I've got to get on with this. I've got to get on with this.
There were some slow responses.
There were some, but in general,
I do feel like I'm having to drag it out.
No, overall, you're very eloquent and very chatty. And that's not to say that you're not in deep hypnosis. It's just one of the classic feedbacks of someone in hypnosis is they are searching for those thoughts, and it takes a long time for them to pull it out.
When I'm doing it, I feel like I'm hurrying up, and to some extent, when it's not coming, I consciously relax and wait for a thing to come to me. So when you were saying, "Oh, what's your name?" I was getting John. No, it's not right. Jack's not right. Joseph. And then I think about it, and John and Jack feel wrong, and Joseph keeps coming back again, and then I'll say Joseph.
And that's really natural, and that's what people take an awfully long time to do, but you don't seem to do that. So you're very...
I mull it over, and I almost test it, like I'm thinking, Joseph. And then did Joseph feel right? Does Joseph feel right? Just Joseph feels right, and then I say it. But I'm almost like testing myself to see, is that what I'm really seeing? When you were saying dates and I was saying 1798 and 1796 or whatever it was, I was thinking, can that be right? And just relaxing and going blank, and then it comes back again, relaxing, going blank, and then it comes back again. And then I say it, because if I almost feel like I'm trying to fight it and saying, no, it can't be that, it can't be that. Well, it keeps coming back, it must be that. And then I say it.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing things. It's like things that are in my head, like an earworm.
Yeah. But that's not wrong. We don't all have to be visual.
No. But
I think that's
saw
just the classic, isn't it?
The word 1798 when it was almost like it was a smoke visual, like coming out of the smoke. And it's kind of, is that right? It can't be right. And then it comes back again. Okay, well, it's fairly determined. And then I try to blank it out, and then I let it come back again. Right, well, that's it then. And then I say it. But that process, I sometimes check it 2 or 3 times, and it seems to me that feels like I'm struggling with it. And then once I've accepted it, it's like, well, we told you, accept what we're giving you and stop fighting us. And here it is. That's how I kind of feel, like I'm testing it and then accepting what comes to me. And when I've accepted it, I can then move on to the next question. So when I was saying the date and how old do you feel? And I was saying, well, I was thinking, do I feel 20? Do I feel 30? And I just got this sense of still being on the cusp of manhood kind of thing. So I couldn't be 30. And then I was just relaxing again and thinking about it and thinking, right, well, you know, early 20s. But I was perfectly well aware that my age wasn't actually relevant to who I was. So the person who I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to be 29 at my next birthday. There was no sense of that kind of experience of life. That wasn't part of life. You went through and you did things and you gradually matured, and maybe once in a while you noticed how old you were, but only if you started seeing grey hairs or something. There was no counting down of birthdays type culture in that life.
Which,
does that make sense?
Would probably tie in with that period.
Yeah. I felt like I was in the first flush of strength, and therefore I guessed 20s. And then when I was getting married, I felt like I was kind of definitely more mature and steadier, and so I guessed 30s, you know, because that's how I would have expected to have felt at that age. But I was using my now logic to interpret what the feelings were.
Yeah, which is why I felt you weren't as deep, because when the human logic comes in, it's like you're battling with your conscience.
Oh, I definitely think I'm fighting to make sure that what's coming to me is correct, and that is actually what I'm supposed to be getting. Because why would I question it and try to blank it out and let it come back again if it was not a question? Am I sure this is what I'm getting? But it's almost as if I'm getting things rather than the person. And I relax into it, and then I feel the way they feel. I smell the things they smell. I hear the things they hear around them. But I have to allow myself to do that. It's almost like I can't totally let go of control. I have to say, right, okay, I now need to feel this, and then I can let it come in, but it doesn't overwhelm me. It doesn't take me over.
And it doesn't have to. I mean, there's levels of trance.
But this time,
very interesting.
I definitely felt when you were doing the walk down the stairs and the garden, I was doing a lot better with that this time than I did the first time I was hypnotised. I was actually able to visualise the garden, and I was standing at the top of a set of almost like Devonshire stone steps, but there were hummingbirds around me in the garden. So instead of pretty plants, I was seeing little hummingbirds and things like that. And then I went down, and then I got to kind of like a sunny glade with a hammock, and I could feel myself settle into the hammock. And I didn't get that last time. But I never see doors. I never see doors.
Well, not
I
everybody
just
does.
see
You don't have to. You just
like a long, almost tunnel-y pathway, and I can think of trees on one side and a stone wall on the other, but I don't walk past doors. I just get to a certain point, and then a number comes to me.
That's okay. That's how your mind works.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's peculiar, but and as I'm going down the pathway, I'm starting to get anxious, thinking I'm not going to get anything. Then nothing's coming, and then suddenly something comes out of nowhere, and I try to ignore it, and it nags at me until I stop ignoring it. And as soon as I've said it, it's like, you've accepted it, so we can do this now. Like it's like if I tried to fight it and say a different number, I would be kicked out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I don't accept what I'm being given, I'll be kicked out. Yeah, I have to accept and not fight what I'm given.
That's your subconscious talking to you.
Yeah. Just let it happen. Stop trying to, just let it happen. This is what we're giving you. This is what you have to accept. Accept it's real, and then we can move on.
Well, thank you so much